where we have breaking news that the first very bad thing that this bill does has been defeated. So the bill gave a power to the Minister for Health to order all hospitals, Catholic, Christian, any hospital in New South Wales to perform abortions, and the hospital had to comply. And so, as I said at the start of March, this has the potential to end religious freedom in our country. And because of the showing of 10,000 people who came out last night, in the dark with their kids, just ordinary folk, came out to say this cannot happen in New South Wales. One out of the four very bad things in this bill has already been defeated. It's going to be a long night. There's a steep mountain we have to climb, but I'm very excited and a bit emotional, actually, at the fact that together we've achieved something I didn't think would be
you've got
possible.
a right to be. You have an absolute right to be. I spoke to Tony Abbott last night. I know he went down and addressed your rally. He said this was an assault on freedom of conscience. What I don't understand is there are hospitals and GP clinics across the country that offer abortion services. So to force those institutions that do not, based on their religious values, is a line that Australians have never, ever voted to cross. So what's driving this agenda?
So, look, in Australia, you can get a telehealth abortion in any postcode, in any location, and it can cost as little as $6.80 to end the life of your child. So cheaper than a milkshake. And that's how much the federal government subsidises abortion. And the reality is the smokescreen that the Greens have used for this bill is to say that it needs to be accessible in rural and regional areas. Chris Minns, the Premier, during the election campaign, came out and said that this bill will decimate the health workforce because midwives and nurses are not going to want to do this. And he said it's an affront to religious freedom. And in the election campaign, we saw Albanese talking about how he'd come back to the faith, crying over the death of Pope Francis, going to St. Mary's on Easter Sunday. He was with the Greek Orthodox in the evening. They were courting the religious vote in Western Sydney, where they knew those electorates voted against same-sex marriage. They're deeply conservative electorates. And Labor fooled religious voters into thinking that they would be on their side. And within one day of Albanese winning, Chris Minns did a grubby deal with the Greens to ram this bill through the Parliament, despite all the assurances that they were going to block this bill. So it is a massive breach of trust from Labor. And what I think is driving this bill is a pro-abortion ideology deep within the Labor Party because of Emily's List, because of that underground militia of pro-abortion women who have this as their number one agenda item. And they've worked behind the scenes with Amanda Conn, who's an abortionist in the Greens, who's leading this bill in the Parliament. And what they want to see is an ideology where none of us can dissent. You and I, Peter, or any ordinary Australian or any ordinary health worker who doesn't want to do abortions, doesn't want to perform abortions, believes that abortion ends the life of an innocent, vulnerable child, indeed our youngest Australians. The Greens and pro-abortion Labor want to make sure that we're not allowed to think that, we're not allowed to believe that, we're not allowed to act on that.
It is so good to be here tonight with you all. Thank you so much for coming out. You are amazing. There has been a complete breach of trust from Chris Minns and New South Wales Labor in rushing this bill through the Parliament this week. One day after Albo won the election, where they promised us that this bill wouldn't pass, they went around to religious communities telling us, we're not going to pass this bill, we're not going to pass this bill. And they couldn't even wait 24 hours to do a dirty deal with the Greens and rush through this bill in the Parliament.
Yeah, and I would just like to say on the offset that I've had 2 abortions, and it is not healthcare. It is not healthcare for the woman, and it is not healthcare for the baby. And Dr. Conn and the Labor Party and the Greens Party do not represent the women who have chosen this and regret it. What we need is health care for the women who do regret this, who have made that choice, and this kind of nonsensical, evil bill doesn't do any of that. They are not pro-woman, they are not pro-baby, they are not pro-life, and they are not pro-faith or freedom.
What's in the bill and why it's caused such outrage tonight?
Peter, it's trying to force health professionals with a conscientious objection to abortion to facilitate, not just to refer, but to actually facilitate people having abortions. Fundamentally, it's designed to force Christian people out of the healthcare system. It's designed to force Catholic and other Christian hospitals, other religious hospitals out of the healthcare system unless they are to sacrifice their principles. It's really about cancelling faith in our public life. If this bill were to go forward, and the Labor Party has agreed to give government time to ram this Greens bill through the New South Wales Parliament, if this bill becomes law, it will be another unhappy milestone in the driving of Christianity into our private places, the banishing of Christianity from our public life. It's a terrible milestone in the decline of our society, and it's a fundamental assault on freedom of conscience.
Well, just a couple of things from me. I mean, we've got a lot of our hospital healthcare services provided by different faiths. Now, not all services like abortion are provided in all hospitals. Hospitals can offer services based on their religion, and they do. That will then be something that will be, I guess, ruled out with this legislation. It could perhaps even send a signal that Catholic or Christian hospitals have to offer euthanasia, and that's against their beliefs, of course. But I thought this was something that Chris Minns, as Premier, said would never happen.
There was previously a deal, as I understand it, between the New South Wales Labor government and the Greens to bring this on and ram it through the Parliament in March. When word seeped out of this, the Labor Party promised people in the lead up to the federal election that it was never going to happen. Now, that was a lie. It was another one of Labor's campaign lies. And so what this move now, and it's supposed to be going through the Parliament, rammed through in government time next week, what this shows is the depth of the alliance between the Greens and the Labor Party. The Greens might be on the verge of expulsion from the lower house of the federal Parliament, thanks to Peter Dutton's principled stand, but they're still alive and well and manipulating the Labor Party in New South Wales.
And I want to make the point too, in New South Wales, you can have late-term abortion right up until your due date. So I think that's why there's so much concern about this move.
It's essentially...
Just quickly, Tony Abbott...
It's essentially infanticide, Peter. It's essentially infanticide. Late-term abortions, particularly where the baby is born alive, it's infanticide. And this is so wrong. And yet there is this green left push basically to promote what amounts to infanticide. And it's so wrong. And